And we are live. Good evening, everyone. In light of what's going on in this country right now with the protests, with income inequality, with police brutality, and racism being front and center, a lot of us are being forced to actually come to reality and grips with some things. And I did not want to have to make this video because I'm not a social justice warrior. I'm not one of these woe is me, I'm a victim type of people. But the remarks, the tweets, and the videos that Peter Schiff and many other libertarians have been sharing and tweeting and making over the past month has really revealed a lot to me, where I no longer can support this whole libertarian ideology because I'm beginning to see that it's just the reality is it's rooted in racism. I'm just going to be honest with you. In Peter Schiff's mind and in his worldview, because black on black crime is high, and because I'm a black man, and I may live in a neighborhood that has a lot of crime, that I'm just a statistic and that my civil liberties, they don't matter. My constitutional rights don't matter, that the police can just stop me and I have to just obey. And what I just find funny and I find ironic is that Peter Schiff's whole brand is supposed to be about limited government and about being a libertarian and about your rights. And yet every single time when there's some type of act of violence committed against black men or women, it's always somehow now we need to talk about black on black crime. And now notice that he's talking about only 9 unarmed black people were killed by the police in 2019. As if that's the argument. See, that in itself shows bias. Why would you go for that statistic when there are so many other statistics that can show you that police brutality is real? That bias policing and racial profiling in policing is real. And that's what we're going to focus on today. But I just want to really hone in on that. George Floyd was killed in front of us for the world to see. But what a lot of people are missing about what happened to George Floyd is that even if he lived, he did resist arrest. He did pass a fake 20. He did have meth and fentanyl in his system. That's not proper policing to put your knee on someone's neck. Even if George Floyd lived, that is police brutality. So to sit up here somehow and to justify that or to try to make it seem like there's not a problem because only 9 unarmed people were shot, that's not the argument. The argument is the fact of the matter is that how many George Floyds happen that are not recorded. And when I say happen, I don't mean getting killed. I mean getting beat by the police. When you commit a crime, it is not for the police to be the judge and the jury and the executioner. The job and the role of the police is to lock you up. It is not to beat you to a bloody pulp and bring you in and say, well, hey, you resisted arrest. That's not the role of the police. And if you are someone that believes that that's what police should be doing, that police should be kneeling on a man's neck while he's handcuffed because he's resisting arrest, then there's something wrong with you. And to call yourself a libertarian, but you're only a libertarian when it comes to, your gold positions and when it comes to making profit and money, but you're not a libertarian when it comes to black people's rights, then there's something wrong with you. Now we're going to read some of these tweets. And we're going to really dive into this because you know me, I'm going to bring you the statistics, the data, and the information. So as you come into this video, please do me a favor and like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, make sure that you join my mailing list that is in the description below so that you can be notified whenever I go live. In case YouTube doesn't send you a notification, I will send you an email. If you want to contact me, you can follow me on my Instagram and send me a direct message. Also, by the way, for some of you who are interested in crypto, I just recently launched My Tech Academy. We have a free 7-day trial. For those of you who are interested in crypto and blockchain technology, a link to that will be in the description below. And with that being said, if you can hear me and you can see me clear, type 1 and we will get to the live stream. Okay, so here we go. So Peter Schiff starts tweeting out, the reason black parents must warn their sons. Oh, let's just read this one. He says, Chris Wallace told Secretary Carson that he never told his sons and his parents never told him how to act if stopped by police. I call BS. Wallace lied to feign white privilege and signal he's not a racist. All parents, regardless of race, should raise sons to respect the police. The reason black parents must warn their sons that police are more likely to be suspicious of them than white men is that black men commit a disproportionate amount of crime. It's probability, not racism. Blame the black criminals, not the police of all races, for playing the odds. So in Peter Schiff's mind, I'm just a statistic. I don't have any rights. I should not be stopped at a disproportionate rate compared to my white counterparts because I have a nice car and I live in a bad neighborhood, or because I'm walking down the block. I should be stopped because of my skin color, because other people who look like me commit crimes at a disproportionate rate. This is the logic of a libertarian. I want you to understand this is the logic of a man who has an ideology that's supposed to be anti-establishment, limited government, protecting your constitutional rights and your sovereignty as an individual. But his tweets is telling you that the odds are, because black on black crime is high, even though I'm not committing a crime, probability means I should be stopped and I should be profiled. Per his logic. So you really have to start asking yourself this question. And now I've seen so many libertarians and, people from the crypto space sharing similar sentiments about black people, about resisting arrest, about black on black crime. He's basically saying that he's okay with racial profiling. Now understand, and I want to make this very clear. You see the Rush Limbaughs, the Candace Owens, the Brandon Tatums, they're constantly bringing up the fact that only 9 unarmed black people were killed by the police in 2019. But I want you to understand that that's not the argument. The argument is about systemic oppression. Because understand that when George Floyd is beat by the police, if he lives and survives, that does not go into a data point or a statistic. When you are beat by the police and you're brutalized by the police, and I'm going to get into the stop and frisk data that happened here in New York, you are not counted. They don't count how many people they beat. They don't count how many people's noses that they break. They don't count how many black eyes that they give people. So that's a phony BS statistic to talk about, only 9 unarmed people were killed. How many people were beat? How many people were falsely detained? How many people were stopped because they were walking down a block and not doing anything? See, that's what we're talking about. Policing and policies. That's not the kind of policing that's effective in 2020. And that's not the world that we should live in, that because I look a certain way that I should be profiled. Now let's get to the point. Here in New York City, there was a policy from 2002 to 2011 known as stop and frisk. Because see, the Brandon Tatums of the world, they want to talk about data and statistics. Well, here's some data and statistics that you can sit on. It says the annual stop and frisk numbers. An analysis by the NYCLU revealed that innocent New Yorkers have been subjected to police stops and street interrogations more than 5 million times since 2002, and that Black and Latino communities continue to be the overwhelming target of these tactics. At the height of stop and frisk in 2011, under the Bloomberg administration, over 685,000 people were stopped. Nearly 9 out of 10 stopped and frisked New Yorkers have been completely innocent. So he wants to talk about data and statistics. At the height of the stop and frisk program, they stopped 685,000 people in 2011, and only 9 out of 10 of them were innocent. So only 1 out of 10 was committing some type of crime. So think about that. They're violating people's constitutional and civil rights. Think about that for a second. And let's really get into the data, because they like to talk about the statistics and they like to deflect. Because see, one thing I've learned about white conservatives is they've mastered the art of tricknology. And that's a word that I made up. They've mastered that art where they like to deflect and change the narrative. So now you're arguing about a statistic that has nothing to do with why people are marching and protesting. People are marching and protesting because their rights are being violated on a daily basis by the police. This is state-sanctioned violence against Americans. And then you sound stupid when you say more white people are killed by the police than black people, as if that's a good thing. Only a fool, and I don't want to curse, only a fool would sit up here and say, well, more white people are killed by the police, as if that's a good justification. That's not something that you should actually even utter out of your mouth. But look at this. In 2010, 1,285 NYPD stops were recorded. 518,849 were innocent. 86% of them were innocent. Out of that 518,000, 315,083 were black. Another 189,326 were Latino. So a bulk of the stops in 2010 were black and Hispanics, and they were innocent. And they were innocent. I really just want you to think about that. 2009, 581,168 NYPD stops were recorded. 510,742 were innocent. 55% were black, 32% were Hispanic, 88% were innocent, 86% was innocent. In 2008, 88% was innocent. In 2007, 87% was innocent. Now, I know what some of you are saying. Well, guess what? We had to do that to get the crime numbers down. Okay. So in 2011, they were sued, right? Well, let's look at the data. When the stop and frisk peaked out and then it dropped, look what happened to crime. It still kept trending down. It still kept trending down, even after they stopped the stop and frisk. So clearly, the crime dropping was not related to the amount of stops that the police were doing here in New York City. So that argument that, there's so much crime in these black communities that we just have to go out here and basically stop and harass people. No, you don't. Because the crime still continued to drop. Still continued to drop. Now, I know I'm biased, so you're not going to take my word for it. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to play for you the actual police from the NYPD telling you out of their mouth. Now remember, you're a conservative, right? You trust the police. You believe in all lives matter, right? You believe in the blue wall, right? That thin blue line. So I'm going to play for you 12 NYPD officers telling you that they were actually hunting black men ages between 14 and 24, right? Because you trust all cops. You're a conservative. You trust all cops. So I'm going to play the police telling you out of their mouth here in New York City that they were hunting young black men. Give me 1 second.
You might not see nothing. You're supposed to be visible. You might not see anything, but you go hunting, like bounty hunting for an arrest, locking up some old guy, some homeless guy, finding somebody who's riding their bicycle on the sidewalk, who's spinning, and you bring him in.
The problem is when you go hunting, when you put any type of numbers on a police officer to perform, we are going to go to the most vulnerable.
The most vulnerable.
Of course, we're going to go to LGBT community. We're going to go to the black community. We're going to go to those people that have no vote, that have no power. If we start doing what we're doing in Midtown Manhattan, a phone call to the mayor's office is going to be made. That's going to be the end of it.
We're the predators, they're the prey. The worst thing you can have is a police officer that needs an arrest for the month.
So you're all minorities. How does that make you feel?
It's horrible.
This is something coming from the top that trickles its way down, and this is why we're all here today.
We first interviewed Officer Edwin Raymond last month. He says he's been recording conversations with NYPD officials for the past 2 years in an effort to prove alleged quotas and retaliation against cops who don't rack up numbers.
They're breaking the law.
Raymond's claims elicited this expletive from the police commissioner.
Bullshit is my response to that.
The commissioner insists his policies are focused on the quality of arrests and summonses, not the quantity. The officer's attorney.
Is the commissioner lying?
Yes. Commissioner Bratton is lying.
How can you prove this?
I can prove it with testimony, with recordings, with documents.
All they want us to do is go out there and lock them up. They told us it's easier to get numbers out here because you work in this type of community.
Are you arresting for stuff that you shouldn't be arresting for?
Well, that's why we're here. We don't do it. We refuse.
Now, again, let's say that I'm some social justice warrior. Let's say that I'm some Black Lives Matter supporter. But you support all police, right? You're a conservative. You believe the police. Well, the police are telling you, these are cops. So now, because you want to play the whole numbers game, the data game, well, the stop and frisk data tells you that the policy didn't drive down crime. Crime continued to trend down anyway. Once you stop doing the stop and frisks, over 80% overwhelmingly every year, year after year, were innocent people. So you were just violating people's rights. And then now you have police telling you out of their mouths that, guess what? We were hunting black people. So you can't have it both ways. You can't sit up here and say, hey, I want to trust the cops and I believe the police officers. And then the police officers tell you, hey, they're recording. They have recordings. You can go look this up yourself, Peter. You're smart. They have audio recordings of cops recording their bosses, their sergeants, their lieutenants, telling them, go get their numbers. Go get those numbers. And look what community you're in. So again, I'm not making this up. Peter said this out of his mouth. He said the reason black parents must warn their sons that police are more likely to be suspicious of them than white men is that black men commit a disproportionate amount of crime. It's probability, not racism. Blame the black criminals, not the police of all races, for playing the odds. Playing the odds. So in Peter Schiff's mind, right, I'm just a number. But he's a libertarian. See, you see how quick they are to throw out their ideology when it comes to race and racism? Because they don't want to have an honest conversation about race and racism. I'll take it a step further because I know you like to have data and statistics. So let's look at sentencing. For the same crime, a black man and a white man or woman commits the same crime with the same background. Why is it that black men are sentenced longer than their white counterparts? Let's take a step back. Let's unpack this. Let me repeat that for you again. Let me get my Umar Johnson on. So, you have a black man, you have a white man or woman who commits the same crime with a similar background. Why is the black man or woman sentenced longer than the white person? See, this is systemic oppression and racism. It's systemic. So this is from the ACLU, right? Now, Peter, you're a Jewish person, right? The ACLU, they stand up for a lot of Jewish causes. So I'm pretty sure if they were standing up for a cause for your people, you'll cite them as a reputable source. So I'm going to cite them as a reputable source as well. And we're going to read this. Racial disparities in sentencing in the United States. There are significant racial disparities in sentencing decisions in the United States. Sentences imposed on black males in a federal system are nearly 20% longer than those imposed on white males convicted of similar crimes. Black and Latino offenders sentenced in state and federal courts face significantly greater odds of incarceration than similarly situated white offenders and receive longer sentences than their white counterparts in some jurisdictions. Black male federal defendants receive longer sentences than whites arrested for the same offenses and with comparable criminal histories. Research has shown that race plays a significant role in the determination of which homicide cases result in death sentences. The racial disparities increase with the severity of the sentence imposed. The level of disproportionate representation of blacks among prisoners who are serving life sentences without the possibility of parole, LWOP, is higher than that among parole-eligible prisoners serving life sentences. The disparity is even higher for juvenile offenders sentenced to life without parole, and higher still among prisoners sentenced to life without parole for non-violent offenses. Although blacks constitute only about 13% of the U.S. population as of 2009, blacks constitute 28.3% of all lifers, 56.4% of those serving life without parole, and 56.1% of those received life without parole for offenses committed as a juvenile. Let's go to the next. This is the last part. I want to skip down here real quick. Give me 1 second. Let's go down. I don't even want to read. You can go and read this report. And let me drop this in the chat for you guys. Let's drop this in the chat. I want you to go and follow behind me, and you go and you do your own resource or your own research. These are the resources for you to go and do your research. Same crime, similar criminal backgrounds, yet we're doing 20% longer sentences. We're in jail 20% longer than our white counterparts. Think about it. Now, I know what some of you are saying. Oh, you're reaching, man. See, I like to give you guys some current or recent events. Remember the guy Brock Turner? Remember the swimmer from Stanford who raped the girl? Well, let me refresh your memory for those of you who might not remember who Brock Turner is. Let me give you a little refresher. On January 18th, 2015, on the Stanford University campus, Turner sexually assaulted 22-year-old Chanel Miller, referred to in the documents as Emily Doe, while she was unconscious. Two graduate students intervened and held Turner in place until police arrived. Turner was arrested and released the same day after posting $150,000 in bail. Now, let's think about that. Because most black people are poor, they can't afford to post $150,000 in bail. Now, think about this man who is sitting in jail and able to get bailed out because his parents have money. And think about Khalif Browder, who sat on Rikers Island because he allegedly stole a book bag and he got beat and brutalized because he couldn't make bail and get out of jail. See the difference? Right? Because when you have money in America, you can buy your freedom. And this is what this man basically did. Turner was indicted on 5 charges, 2 for rape, 2 for felony sexual assault, and 1 for attempted rape. And on February 2nd, 2015, he pled not guilty to all of them. The trial concluded on March 30th, 2016, with Turner convicted of 3 charges of felony sexual assault. On June 2nd, 2016, Santa Clara County Superior Court Judge Aaron Persky sentenced Turner to 6 months in jail, followed by 3 years of probation. Additionally, Turner was obliged to register as a sex offender for life and to complete rehabilitation program for sex offenders. Turner was eventually released after serving only 3 months in jail. I want you to think about that for a second. Think about that. This man raped a woman, was convicted of it, and ended up only serving 3 months in jail. Think about this. I really want you to really sit back and just think about this. And I'm picking New York City with the stop and frisk data because I live in New York City. And I see, and I'm about to show you guys in a second, they police black communities completely different than they police Jewish communities, white communities. They don't come in with batons and pepper spray. They don't tell those people in Battery Park, shut the F up. When those Jews were breaking social distancing, and don't worry, I'm going to show you this in a second, they weren't beating them with batons and throwing them on the floor. They were talking to them, and they were resisting arrest. Don't believe me? Let's get to the footage. Right here, I'm not going to play this video because I don't want to get a copyright from Sean King. But this is Battery Park. This is on May 4th. This is at the height of the corona pandemic. Do you see these people practicing social distancing? And I'm going to play a separate video in a second. Do you see them practicing social distancing? Instead, you know what the NYPD was doing? They were down there handing out hand sanitizer and masks to these people and talking to them and petting their dog. I want you to think about that. Right? Now, let's look at how they were treating black people in Harlem for standing on their stoop. Punch them. Telling people to get the F back. Look at him, got his baton out, threatening people because they weren't social distancing. Did they do that to the white people in Battery Park? Did you see any batons? Did you see any police officers in that screenshot? No. Look at him. He's menacing them, threatening them, telling them back to F up. But it gets better because let's look at the Jews, right? They had funerals during the pandemic. They violated quarantine. They had weddings during the quarantine. They violated that. But I'm going to make this bigger so you can see. The NYPD marching with them, talking to them peacefully. Easy.
Once again, to tailor to America. This right here is a video of the Hasidic Jews having a memorial for one of their lost ones during social distance. You see an officer grabbing asking him to get out the street as the police car. One of the old guys doesn't want to go, so he goes back in the street. The officer then notices that the guy gets and tries to arrest him. So he's trying to grab him. The man's running away. He's obviously resisting arrest. Now he's grabbing his hand. He's holding him. The community's outraged. Like, what are you grabbing this man? What did he do? He didn't do anything. Why are you bothering this man? They surrounded the officer, and he's still resisting arrest. He's resisting arrest. 2 officers come now. He's further resisting arrest. The whole community is surrounding the officers. The officers politely asking people to back up. Politely. They're in his face. They're screaming. He's started the trouble. Everybody's surrounded. There's no punches thrown. No one's being thrown to the ground. The man is still resisting arrest. Still resisting. They are surrounding him. He's angry. The people are angry. He's still resisting arrest. He has not. 3 officers now have him, and he's still resisting. They are polite.
He's resisting arrest. Why is he not being beat? Why are they not calling for backup? Why are they not shooting him? He's resisting arrest. This is New York City. This is not too. Don't come on this video and tell me, oh, you're comparing apples to oranges. This is the same city. We're talking about a matter of 25. We're talking about the distance of 25 to 50 blocks. We're not talking about different states. We're not talking about different jurisdictions like, oh, well, you know, you're talking about upstate New York and New York City. No, we're talking about NYPD. Now, I just showed you white people hanging in Battery Park in New York City, not social distancing. The NYPD was handing out hand sanitizer and masks. Peter, and you're Jewish. In your community, this guy's resisting arrest. He's pulling away from the police. He's violating the social distancing order. He's not being beat. There are no batons out. So don't tell me that there isn't racism and systematic oppression and biasness when it comes to policing. We're talking about the same city. We're talking about stop and frisk. We're talking about overwhelmingly every year, year after year, 80+% of people being stopped are innocent, and a majority of them are black or Hispanic. And even after they stop the stop and frisk, the crime data and numbers still trended down. Then you had police, because you're a conservative. You believe in that blue wall. The police were coming out and telling you that they were hunting black people. So don't tell me that I'm just, I'm emotional or I'm a social justice warrior. No, I'm a realist. Yes, black on black crime is a problem. But here's the difference. As a black man or woman, if I kill another black man or another black woman, I am going to jail. I'm going to spend the rest of my life in jail. And based upon the ACLU data, that's for federal prison. It's even worse for state prison. I'm going to do a longer sentence and be harshly sentenced as a black man or woman. That's the difference. So to try to deflect and talk about 9 unarmed black men and women being killed in 2019, that's biasness right there in itself. And to be a libertarian and to only look at data points that reflect your worldview shows that you don't want to actually solve any problems. I'll take it a step further, right? Because, you want to get into statistics and data. Well, let's look at this right here. Let's watch the NYPD slap a man, literally slap a man. Watch.
fuck back. Move the fuck back. What you flexing for? Don't flex. Be a lot stuff too. See? Look. He ain't even do no. He ain't even do nothing. Don't flex. Be a lot stuff too. See? Look. He ain't even do no. He ain't even do nothing. He ain't even do nothing. Move the fuck back right now. Move the fuck back. Don't tell me about that. Fuck you. Move back. Move the fuck back right now. Move the fuck back right now. Move the fuck back. Move the fuck back. What you flexing for? Don't flex. Be a lot stuff too. See? Look. He ain't even do no. He ain't even do nothing. He ain't even do nothing. Look. He ain't even do nothing. He ain't even do nothing. He pussy. That nigga's pussy. That nigga's pussy. Fuck out of here.
Did they do that to the Jewish people who were out there maybe 100, 200 deep at a funeral or a wedding? Did they throw that Jewish man that was resisting arrest on the floor? Did they put their knee on any one of those Jewish men's neck? Nah. Did they go down to Battery Park and this is New York City. This is all about social distancing. They slapped this man right here, just basically was upset that the police was arresting another guy. He's not even in the scene. Notice that this cop, he leaves from where they were locking someone else up at and tells them to get the F back and plays with his taser. Give me 1 second. There's another video that I want to let's replay this again with the cops telling you about the stop and frisk. 1 second. Right?
You might not see nothing. You're supposed to be visible. You might not see anything, but you go hunting, like bounty hunting for an arrest, locking up some old guy, some homeless guy, finding somebody who's riding their bicycle on the sidewalk, who's spitting, and you bring him in.
The problem is when you go hunting, when you put any type of numbers on a police officer to perform, we are going to go to the most vulnerable.
The most vulnerable.
Of course, we're going to go to LGBT community. We're going to go to the black community. We're going to go to those people that have no vote, that have no power. If we start doing what we're doing in Midtown Manhattan, a phone call to the mayor's office is going to be made. That's going to be the end of it.
We're the predators, they're the prey. The worst thing you can have is a police officer that needs an arrest for the month.
So you're all minorities. How does that make you feel?
It's horrible.
This is something coming from the top that trickles its way down, and this is why we're all here today.
We first interviewed Officer Edwin Raymond last...
And understand, I'm not anti-police. I'm not some crazy liberal that's telling you we need to defund the police. What I'm telling you is that police brutality is real. And the only difference now between what happened 20, 30, 40 years ago is that people have a camera phone now. And the reason why people are so outraged is because you can see the level of disrespect that is being displayed in black communities. How people's rights are being violated. 30 years ago, George Floyd would have happened, and no one would have believed that it happened. And see, this is why the globalists are going to win eventually. Because the people like Peter Schiff and them in the world, across the world, and throughout the world, they have the ability to get on the right side, but their biasness won't allow them to see that there's a problem with the police in America. And he's supposed to be a libertarian. Now, I want to show you another video. This is recently. Orthodox Jews cut locks of parks to allow children to play in defiance of New York City orders. Look at it. Let's watch it together. Now they're breaking the social distancing rules. They're breaking a New York City order. Now we just watched them resist arrest. We're watching them now basically break into parks. Nothing happens to them. They're not being thrown on the floor. They're not being beat. They're not being brutalized. Now I want to play another video for you, right? Because see, I love to give you the visual so you can see the hate that exists in the world. And again, like I said before, I'm not this guy who white supremacy is everywhere, but I know racism is real. But now I'm even starting to question that myself, because I'm saying to myself, this is a man whom I've been following for 11 years, 10 years in Peter Schiff. I've learned so much from this man when it comes to economics and investing in gold and silver. You guys know I own a lot of gold. I own a lot of silver. And to see him tweet this type of stuff out, I'm sitting there saying to myself, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe white supremacy is a serious issue. Maybe, and see, I'm man enough. See, that's the thing about me, guys. If I get it wrong, I will tell you I'm wrong. Maybe I am wrong. Just maybe I am wrong. And maybe you can call it white supremacy. You can call it biasness, whatever the hell you want to call it. But too many of these videos that I'm about to play for you are starting to pop up. And I'm seeing all of these people in the crypto space, all of these libertarians coming out, and all they keep talking about is black on black crime. And they all keep parroting the same talking points. And they're talking about people looting and burning down things. Okay, let's say the looters cause $20 billion in damage, $50 billion in damage. Wall Street is looting to the tune of trillions of dollars. I'm talking about literally Wall Street is looting $1 trillion every single month. Month after month, they're looting. Every week you turn around, there's a new program that the Fed is gearing towards the stock market. Oh, but they don't want to talk about that type of looting. Because see, they're looting with a suit. See, if you loot with the suit, it's okay, right? It's okay to loot with the suit, but you'll get mad at a person for stealing a TV. You have to ask yourself a question. What type of living conditions are these people living in where they would rather go through a broken window, risking getting arrested to go get a TV? Ask yourself that question. What's happening in a person's life that they'll go through a broken window to try to go get a TV? Thank you for the donation, Alexander Wilson. Appreciate it. Police and officials are immune from federal lawsuits by the Supreme Court in '82. That right there helps police a lot in their cases. I'm going to get to that in a second too. I want to play this video for you. I want you to hear the hate that comes from this lady.
Nigger! Touch me, nigga! You go to jail! Touch me, bitch! Hey! No, it's okay. Touch me, bitch! Fucking move! Fuck you, nigger! Fucking move! Touch me, nigger! Touch me, nigger! Touch me, nigger! Get the fuck out of here! Fuck you all out here! Call the ass police department if you need to, nigger! Go, nigger! Go, nigger! Touch me, nigger! Touch me, nigger! Touch me, nigga! You go to jail! Touch me, bitch! Hey! No, it's okay. Touch me, bitch! Fucking move! Fuck you, nigger! Fucking move! Touch me, nigger! Touch me, nigger! Touch me, nigger! Get the fuck out of here! Fuck you all out here! Call the ass Touch me, nigger. Touch me, nigger.
Why am I playing this video? What does this video have to do with Peter Schiff and all of these libertarians? So we know now, based upon the data, we know based upon the data that there's bias when it comes to policing of certain neighborhoods. We know that we're not talking and we're not speaking about how many black people are being killed by the police. It's about police brutality. It's about the repercussions that happen after the brutality is committed. So that's what the argument's about. We know now about systemic oppression. So this lady is part of that problem, because this lady is a soccer mom on Sunday. This lady works at a grocery store or a restaurant that's preparing your food, or she may work at a bank that's preparing, your loan application. And she has hate. You can see the hate in her eyes. Now, the Federal Reserve put out a report already speaking about, biasness when it comes to loans and lending, where black people with the same credit score, same income, get pushed and steered into subprime loans at a higher rate than their white counterpart that has a lower credit score and worse income verification documents. We're going to get to that in a second as well. Now, I want to play this video for you. Right? This video happened here in New York City. And see, I'm using New York City because I live here. So I see these things. But also because New York City is a liberal paradise, right? There's no racism here, supposedly, right? Supposedly there's no racism. But, so we see biasness in policing. The data reflects it. We now have video footage and evidence of it. Now, this lady right here that I'm about to show you, this lady is your typical Hillary supporter, Bernie supporter, all lives matter. She probably has a black friend. She probably attends all of the little functions, and she would swear that she's not racist. But as you're going to see in this video, she is, quote unquote, breaking the rules of the park. And a black man's going to check her, right? Because we're supposed to be equal, right? You don't believe in white privilege. Watch how she responds to her clearly doing something that she has no business doing, and the man being right. Watch how she responds.
Please stop. Sir, I'm asking you to stop.
Please don't come close to me.
Sir, I'm asking you to stop recording me.
Please don't come close to me.
Please take your phone off.
Please don't come close to
And
me.
I'm taking a picture and calling the cops.
Please call the cops. Please call the cops.
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
Please tell them whatever you like.
Did you hear her? She said there's an African-American man threatening my life. And she specifically...
I'm asking you to stop.
Please don't come close to me.
Sir, I'm asking you to stop recording me.
Please don't come close to me.
Please take your phone off.
Please don't come close to
And
me.
I'm taking a picture and calling the cops.
Please call the cops.
It looks like we cut out for a second. Am I back, guys? Can you see me? Type 1 if I'm back. Okay.
Would you please stop? Sir, I'm asking you to stop.
Please don't come close to me.
Sir, I'm asking you to stop recording me.
Please don't come close to me.
Please take your phone off.
Please don't come close to
And I'm
me.
taking a picture and calling the cops.
Please call the cops. Please call the cops.
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
Please tell them whatever you like.
Excuse me? I'm sorry, I'm in the Ramble, and there is a man, African-American, he has a bicycle helmet. He is recording me and threatening me and my dog. There is an African-American man, I am in Central Park. He is recording me and threatening myself and my dog. And my... I'm sorry, I can't hear you either. I'm being threatened by a man in the Ramble. Please send the cops immediately. I'm in Central Park in the Ramble. I don't know.
Thank you.
And my... I'm sorry, I can't hear you either. I'm being threatened by a man in the Ramble. Please send the cops immediately. I'm in Central Park in the Ramble. I don't know.
Thank you.
Again, why am I playing this video? How is this relevant to Peter Schiff, police brutality, Black Lives Matter? Because, see, this woman, on any regular day, she would say to you, you know, she's an ally. She's a liberal. She understands, you know, racism, oppression. She probably supports the whole, you know, LGBTQ plus community. As I said before, she probably has a black friend. And she'll tell you, I don't see race. But the minute that she's breaking the rules of the park because the guy's telling her that your dog needs to be on a leash over here. There's a dog park on the other side of Central Park where you can have your dog off the leash. The minute that he questions her, she then turns to, how dare you question me? Who are you to question me? And she said something very detailed. She said, an African-American man is threatening me. Because she wanted him to know that I can get on the phone and call the police, and you know what the police will do to you. Right? That was a code to him to let him know, you better stop before I call the police. And then she got on the phone. She's at least well over 50 feet from this man. And she got on the phone and she said, oh my God, I'm afraid. I'm scared. And she put on that scared voice to let the police know that she's in distress, to get over here now. Now, why is this important? Why is this relevant? Because this woman worked at Franklin Templeton, which is a financial services company, and she had a high position in that company. Why is this important? Because now you have to ask yourself, does she carry this biasness into her professional life, into her professional career? Is she a recruiter? Does she hire people? Does she fire people? How does she treat people whom she may think are black or who she interviews that are black versus those that are white? See, these are the questions you have to begin to start asking yourself, because all she had to do was put the dog on a leash and go about her business. But she chose to say, this man is threatening me. This African-American man is threatening me, and to put on a scared white woman voice. So what can happen? So that the police can come thinking that she's in distress to come and save her life. Now, the beautiful thing is, as I said before, what changes this and evens the playing field is that we now have cameras. So this man did the right thing. He pulled his camera out. So now you can't call him a social justice warrior. You can't call him a liberal. You can't call him a baby. No, this woman tried to accuse him of harassing her. And this man was doing nothing but simply asking her to put her dog on a goddamn leash. But see, now let's get better, because now let's get into the finance aspect of it. Right? Banks accused of pushing mortgage deals on blacks. Because see, all of this is what people are protesting. Because we have the data now. Remember yesterday I did the video about Bitcoin and the Bitcoin rebellion and the Zebellion. People are rebelling because they're saying to themselves, the system is rigged. You can no longer sweep it under the rug and act like these things don't exist. It's in your face. Now it's just a matter of, are you either going to have some integrity or you're going to continue with the status quo? So it says, as she describes it, Beth Jacobson and her fellow loan officers at Wells Fargo Bank rode the stagecoach from hell for a decade, systematically singling out blacks in Baltimore and suburban Maryland for high interest subprime mortgages. These loans, Baltimore officials have claimed in a federal lawsuit against Wells Fargo, tipped hundreds of homeowners into foreclosure and cost the city tens of millions of dollars in taxes and city services. Wells Fargo, Ms. Jacobson said in an interview, saw the black community as fertile ground for subprime mortgages, as working class blacks were hungry to be a part of the nation's home owning mania. Loan officers, she said, pushed customers who could have qualified for prime loans into subprime mortgages. Another loan officer stated in an affidavit filed last week that employees had referred to blacks as mud people into subprime lending as ghetto loans. Thank you for the donation, Quiet as Kept. You said since YouTube won't let you monetize this video, you know YouTube's not going to monetize this video. But thank you, I appreciate it. Think about that. These are people who worked in Wells Fargo. So now you have the police officers who are telling you they were targeting black people. The data tells you they were targeting black people. Now we're getting to the financial industry with subprime lending. The people who worked in the bank are telling you they were targeting black people. When are you going to wake up and maybe realize that maybe, just maybe, there may be something to this whole idea of racism and systematic oppression? The people who work in the goddamn bank are telling you they were targeting black people, and they referred to black people as mud people and subprime lending as ghetto loans. I'm not making this up. The people who worked in the bank are saying this. Look, quote, "We just went right after them," said Ms. Jacobson, who is white. Let me repeat that for you again for those of you in the back who might be missing what I'm saying. We just went right after them, said Ms. Jacobson, who is white, and said she was once the bank's top producing subprime loan officer nationally. Wells Fargo Mortgage had an emerging market unit that specifically targeted black churches because it figured church leaders had a lot of influence and could convince congregants to take out subprime loans. You can't make this up. You can't make this up. The New York Times, in a recent analysis of mortgage lending in New York City, found that black households making more than $68,000 a year were nearly 5 times as likely to hold high interest subprime mortgages as whites of similar or even lower incomes. The disparity was greater for Wells Fargo borrowers, as 2% of whites in that income group hold subprime loans and 16.1% of blacks. We've known that African Americans and Latinos are getting subprime loans while whites of the same credit profile or are getting the lower cost loans, said Eric, director of the Washington office of the Center for Responsible Lending. The question has been why, and the gory details of this complaint may provide an answer. Think about that. I mean, at this point, what can you say? Now think about this. Giving people subprime loans, forcing them to pay higher interest rates, that's wealth being extracted from a wealthless group of people. That's wealth that black people already don't have. That's being extracted out of our community. I want you to think about that. Really think about that for a second. So, I mean, it's in your face. And if you hear something that sounds like gunshots, that's just fireworks. It's New York City. People want to light firecrackers all night long. It's New York City. But see, the beautiful thing is that was a white lady in the report. And white people are starting to step up and tell the truth about what's happening. And you see them out there marching and protesting. We're talking about the peaceful protesters. They see that there's a problem here. Andreas put this up the other day. He says, "Oh no, I've lost 800 followers who objected to my political posts about police brutality. How am I going to give them my free education? Fuck off. Bootlickers, statists, and bigots." I'm telling you, there were so many people in the crypto community that were attacking Black Lives Matter, attacking the protesters, saying, why are they protesting? Only 9 unarmed black people were killed in 2019. It was embarrassing to watch. And most of them predominantly white males. But people like Andreas, they have some integrity, and I like to see that. This cop right here in Seattle put out a viral video talking about asking, as a police officer, are you doing the right thing? You know what happened to him? He was fired. Another police officer. Buffalo officials ask state to probe firing of black officer who stopped white colleagues chokehold. So she stopped a white colleague from choking someone. She was fired. I'll read 2 paragraphs. I'll put this article in the chat for you guys. The city council in Buffalo, New York, voted this week to call on State Attorney General Letitia James to investigate the 2008 firing of black officer Carol Horn, who stopped a white colleague from choking a suspect while making an arrest. The incident occurred in 2006, and Horn was fired 2 years later because the Buffalo Police Department claimed Horn had put her fellow officers at risk, including the white officer, Gregory, I'm not even going to try to say that name, whom she stopped after he put the suspect in a chokehold. So now think about this, because they always say, you know, we have to support our troops. We have to support the police. Well, now here we have a police officer who stepped in and stopped her colleague from choking someone, and she was fired. We have this cop here in Seattle. Spoke up. He got fired. We have these cops here in New York City who spoke out against stop and frisk. They were reprimanded. They were put on bad posts. They had vacation days taken away from them. So there's clearly a systemic problem. There's clearly a problem with the police culture in our country. Let's take it a step further. How many black CEOs? I'll pose this question to the chat. Take the S&P 500. Let's take the Fortune 500 companies, right? How many CEOs do you believe are black out of 500 companies? How many CEOs do you believe are black out of 500 companies? I'll wait. I'll let the chat post a little bit. And guys, hit that like button. Smash the like. Get the likes up. Helps the content rank and helps the videos get out there. Okay. Well. Meet the only 4 black Fortune 500 CEOs. But they'll tell you they don't see race. They don't see race. Think about all of these qualified. We're not talking about Pookie and Ray Ray from the block. We're not talking about Daquan or Saquon. We're not talking about, some 2-time felon. We're talking about cream of the crop black candidates that are not even being looked at for these positions. 4 out of 500. But they'll tell you they don't see race, that there's not there's no problem. Again, guys, we have the data now. You can't just sweep this under the rug and pretend that it doesn't exist. You can't tell me that these are the only 4 men that are qualified to run a company. Again, we're not talking about you going to pick Pookie and Ray Ray. We're talking about people who are qualified for the job that are being overlooked. Now, I want to read a little bit of this article. Because again, this is the finance channel. We're talking about business. We talk about economics. Corporate America has failed Black America. Really good article. I'm going to share this with you in the chat. I really encourage you guys to go out here and read this stuff. Educate yourself. It's important. It says, in the past week, it has seemed like every major company has publicly condemned racism. All black squares cover corporate Instagram. Executives have made multi-million-dollar pledges to anti-discrimination efforts and programs to support black businesses. Now, here's the problem with these type of, when you support these type of, anti-discrimination efforts. Most of the time, it's a predominantly white charity or organization, and they pocket the money off of black struggle and black pain. I came across an article where the Bail Initiative in Minnesota, I think they got millions of dollars, and they only spent 200,000 of it. So see, this is the problem. And see, these companies, they think that they're slick. They think that by donating money to some type of charity or organization, that somehow they're doing their part to combat systemic oppression and racism. When most of the time they're really just giving money to their friends who run these, fancy charities and organizations. So the money doesn't even make it to the people who actually need to get the money in the first place. But I digress. That's a separate video for another day. Yet, many of the same companies expressing solidarity have contributed to systemic inequality, targeted the black community with unhealthy products and services, and failed to hire, promote, and fairly compensate black men and black women. Now look at this part. This is key. Targeted the black community with unhealthy products and services. Now, let's go back to the Wells Fargo article, where they were targeting black people with subprime mortgages. Think about it. Right? So when you're putting these pieces of the puzzle together, you can't just deduce this down to a statistic and just say, oh, well, only 9 unarmed black men and women were killed. You can't do that. It's deeper than that. It's deeper than that. And you have to be a 3-dimensional thinker to put the pieces of the puzzle together if you truly care. And I seen a donation I saw a donation come in. I live in New York, and what Eli is saying is correct. Wonderful broadcast. In addition, the course is professionally done. Thank you so much. And guys, for those of you who are interested in crypto and blockchain technology, I just recently released the course. The website's right here, My Tech Academy. We have a free 7-day trial. For those of you who are interested, you can sign up. If you don't like it, just cancel it. It will cost you nothing. But enough promo. Let's get back to this right here, this article. So thank you for the donation. I appreciate it, Mr. G. It says, corporate America has failed Black America, said Darren Walker, the president of the Ford Foundation and a member of the board of Pepsi, and who is Black. Excuse me. Even after a generation of Ivy League educations and extraordinary, talented African Americans going into corporate America, we seem to have hit a wall. So even he's acknowledging, even after a generation of Ivy League educations. So you can't tell me that you can't find talent. There's talent. You can't tell me that. As brands rushed to align themselves with protesters over the past week, their words often rang hollow, undermined by their own actions. Amazon called for an end to the inequitable treatment of Black people, yet the company has faced sustained criticism for poor working conditions and low pay. In March, it fired Christian Smalls, a Black employee at a Staten Island warehouse, who was demanding safer conditions while working in a pandemic. And the company's general counsel disparaged him as not smart or articulate. Right? Think about it. The general counsel referred to him as not smart or articulate, but yet they put up a black square. Amazon has said Mr. Smalls violated its social distancing policy and that the executive did not know he was Black. The NFL. The commissioner of the National Football League, Roger Goodell, issued a statement saying the protests expressed the pain, anger, and frustration that so many of us feel. But his organization has banned players, most of whom are Black, from kneeling to protest police brutality, and the quarterback most identified with the gesture, Colin Kaepernick, has been effectively blacklisted. On Friday night, Mr. Goodell appeared to reverse himself, saying, "We, the National Football League, admit we were wrong," and adding, "I personally protest with you." So we know that this stuff is a game. These companies are acting like they care all of a sudden, but their actions don't reflect it. Their actions don't reflect in what they're basically saying. Actions speak louder than words. Now, why would Peter feel this way, right? Let's start really putting these pieces of the puzzle together. Let's play a game. Let's go to Peter Schiff's company or his subsidiary, whatever it is. How many Black employees do you think Peter Schiff has? Right? That would be a good question. How many Black employees does Peter Schiff actually employ? I would ask the question, how many average regular Black people does Peter Schiff come into contact with on a consistent basis? Huh? People are saying 10, 2. Here we go. Let's go here. Key team members at Euro Pacific Capital. So we have John, we have Matt, we have Chris, and we have Matt. Yeah, okay. Well, Peter really cares, right? Then we have management team. We have Peter Schiff, we have Eric, we have Andrew, and we have John. Real diverse. So much diversity. Nelson Seals, thank you for the donation. I appreciate it. You are speaking so much truth. I work in corporate America. It's so hard dealing with the BS each day. So glad you are speaking on it. No problem. I'll do my best. Oh, Matt. He said Matt Matt kind of look ethnic, John Lego said. Oh, okay, Matt. If you believe he looks ethnic, if that counts. Right, we're talking about black people here, right? Because he's trying to chastise black people. He's trying to tell us this is why we're being stopped. But listen to what Peter said, and I agree with Peter. I'm glad Peter put this tweet out. He says, one advantage of standing up for truth on Twitter is that it allows me to purge my followers of people who are part of the problem instead of part of the solution. I always notice a lot of unfollows when I tweet politically incorrect but undeniable and demonstrable facts. So I'm going to help you out as well, Peter, and I'm going to click unfollow, and I no longer follow you as well. Because you're not putting out facts. You're putting out facts, but you're not really, you're not giving any context to those facts and any nuance to the facts that you're presenting. Because it's not as simple as just saying only 9 unarmed black men were killed. Right? Because that's not what people are protesting. You're trying to change and deflect the narrative. It's about systemic oppression and police brutality. And when that cop slaps that man, as I was able to show you earlier, that doesn't get calculated into any statistic or data point. And, I'll take it a step further, right? There we go. This is the cop. See? They say we have to support the troops. We have to support the police. Well, I'm going to show you what happened to another cop. Want to know why it's so hard for cops to be good cops? It was 2007. I was assisting a call. This is a police officer. I was assisting a call with an officer I'd never met before. He was from another team working overtime. Right in front of me, he broke a kid's nose with a punch. The septum was clearly deviated. Blood was everywhere. The kid was handcuffed, and the officer inquired of me, what should we arrest him for? So he asked the question, what did he do? I inquired. He called me a name. He said, after 20 minutes of him trying to persuade me we should fabricate a crime, he had to let the kid go. We need to do notes, get our story straight. He then told me, I don't need assistance in writing what happened. I found a quiet place and wrote the facts. As I wrote, I was joined by a female, a sergeant, who knew this officer. She spent 20 minutes trying to convince me the kid was a shitbag and my notes should reflect the danger he posed. I was disgusted. We don't behave this way. I went to the platoon commander and provided a statement for the assault I witnessed. An investigation commenced, one which should have been forwarded to SIU Ontario. The investigator asked me questions like, how do you know his nose was broken? And where did you get your medical degree? Seriously. Then came the result, a phone call from the superintendent whilst I was home. Paul, our investigation is complete and you've been found guilty of misconduct in that you failed to communicate with a colleague. A verbal warning will be put on file. Be careful in the future. When I got back to work, I was moved from my team and away from my friends to this officer's team. Officers just point blank refused to talk to me and I went to many calls by myself. I'm not even going to keep reading this. So what he's saying is, this is the blue wall. Cop he was working with broke a kid's nose. He wrote the truth. They retaliated it against him. We have a black police officer lady right here. Right? She lost her job for stopping a cop from choking someone. We have the police here in NYC. They said that stop and frisk, they were hunting black people. So now we have, as Peter Schiff just said, demonstratable, like people's testimony, and we have data. And we know that here in New York City, they stopped over 5 million people. 9 out of every 10 stopped and frisked New Yorkers have been completely innocent. So I'm not guessing when I make these videos. But if you want to hear Peter Schiff's crazy rhetoric, capitalism punishes discrimination, government rewards it. This is the last thing I want to leave you with, because I want to show you the mindset of a Peter Schiff and why people always say to me, well, why won't you debate him? Or why won't you debate Brandon Tatum? What is there to debate? When a person has logic like this, now he's talking about Trevon Martin here. So when Mike Brown was shot, Peter Schiff put out a video, shot and killed, might I add. He basically said that it was Mike Brown's fault. He then blamed Trevon Martin for what happened to him, that he attacked George Zimmerman. And now he put out the video about, George Floyd and how many black men are being killed. Thank you for the donation, Self-Made SM. The Peter Schiffs and Robert Kiyosaki's of the world have the same mental patterns and cognitive dissonance between money and racism. If they were really libertarians, they would see the world for what they want instead of what it is. And I agree with you 100%. 100%. So let's hear what he has to say. And again, thank you for the donation. I appreciate you guys supporting it, because this video will not be monetized.
Peter, hey, I really think you do your users or your listeners a huge disservice when you try to comment, with such bias. I mean, it's very obvious to your users whose side you're on without even knowing the facts, because you speak as if you were there.
Mike,
and you weren't.
Mike, I do know the facts. That's the point. I think the people who are biased are the people who don't know the facts. I've got all the facts, and therefore I'm making a decision based on the facts that I know. So my only bias is based on the facts. And so based on the facts that I know. Now, what facts do you know that would lead you to believe that George Zimmerman murdered Trevon Martin? What facts do you have that would support that?
So you can go and watch this video for yourself. Let's unpack this here. What Peter Schiff is basically saying is that what George Zimmerman did to Trevon Martin was an act of self-defense. That's what he said. What the caller is trying to get Peter Schiff to understand, George Zimmerman never witnessed Trevon Martin committing a crime. Never witnessed Trevon Martin committing a crime. Trevon Martin's walking down the street. George Zimmerman says he looks suspicious. Calls 911. 911 asks him, what is he doing? He said he's just walking around looking weird. They told him, wait for police to get there. At that point, why would George Zimmerman engage Trevon Martin? See, this is not complicated. He's saying that he knows he has all of the facts, is what Peter Schiff is saying. But the fact of the matter is that George Zimmerman never observed Trevon Martin committing a crime. Therefore, he should have never stopped Trevon Martin, and he should have never bothered Trevon Martin. Because in America, as a libertarian, I would think that a libertarian would say to you that he has the right to walk down the street. But see, in Peter Schiff's world, because I'm black, or because you're black, and because people who may look like you commit crime at a high rate, then therefore you're not human, and I need to stop you, I need to question you, I need to frisk you, because it's my community, because I'm white and I say so. That's Peter Schiff's logic. That's the logic of a libertarian. So now, I agree. I support the Second Amendment. I believe that you have a right to protect your person, you have a right to protect your property and your family. You have a right to stand your ground. But does Trevon Martin have a right to stand his ground? See, this isn't complicated, right? The same way George Zimmerman viewed Trevon Martin as being suspicious and weird, Trevon Martin looked at George Zimmerman as being suspicious and weird, right? Both of them looked at each other with a degree of suspicion. If anyone was right, it was Trevon Martin, where you have a weird man following you down the block, pursuing you, and you're minding your business. You have every right to be able to protect and defend yourself because you're walking down the street minding your business. Again, George Zimmerman never witnessed Trevon Martin committing a crime. He basically took it upon himself to go and confront that man. And now at this point, you can't say that you have all of the facts, because now it's a matter of my word versus your word. The problem is Trevon Martin, he doesn't have a word because he's dead. See, it's not complicated, right? It's your word versus my word. The problem is I can't ever get to say my piece because I'm dead. But the reality is, the fact of the matter is, that altercation should have never happened in the first place because he never witnessed Trevon Martin committing a crime. See, it's not complicated. But see, Peter Schiff, who's a libertarian, wants to make it complicated because see, this ties into Candace Owens, Brandon Tatum. That crowd, they know and they understand what makes their base tick. They don't give a damn about patriotism, the flag. They get off on abusing and victimizing black people. And they get rewarded financially to do this. Peter gets rewarded for this type of content. It's the reality. It's the reality. It's a reality. So, the beautiful thing is, because I don't like to be doom and gloom. I don't like to, constantly just promote doom and gloom all day long. The beautiful thing is that the people are starting to wake up, and you could be one of these individuals who believe that George Soros and the globalists are funding Black Lives Matter, and that may be true. But at the end of the day, people are fed up. And when you push people against the wall and they don't have anything to lose, they don't give a damn about your conspiracy theory. They don't give a damn about your flag. And that's what we're seeing happen right now. And I support the protest. I support the looting. If Wall Street can loot, then the protesters can loot. Burn it down. Because at this point, you don't have anything to lose, most of you. And that's just the reality. You can replace a window. You can replace a building. You can't replace that extra 20% of time that you're sentenced to versus your white counterpart. You can't replace that. You can't get that time back. George Floyd can't get back his life. That cop, that young man who had his nose broken by that police officer is going to have to live with the side effects of having that broken nose. Those families who were given subprime mortgages when they qualified for prime. They had wealth stolen from them, probably lost their house. You can't get that back. It's time that you put into something. Those young men that I was able to show you who were beaten by NYPD because they weren't social distancing. They have to live with that humiliation for the rest of their lives. Now, the next question any logical person would ask themselves, okay, we witnessed what those 4 cops did to George Floyd. So now we need to look at every other case of excessive force that those cops may have been a part of. Because, see, that's not in your statistic, Peter. Those unarmed people who are shot and killed. But see, this is the games that the powers that be, that they play. They want to play with data and numbers and statistics. But then when you come back with statistics and data and numbers, they don't like it. Or they want to say the media is lying, that's fake news. See, when they cite the news, it's not fake news. Right? But when you cite the news, it's fake news. See, right? When they say it, it's not fake news. But when you say it, it's fake news. So, you know, these tweets, they bothered me at first because, as I said before, I've learned a lot from Peter. But this past year for me has been a year of growth. Me challenging my own ideology. I told you guys multiple times that, I view myself as more of an independent now politically. I don't see myself supporting any one political group anymore. And, you know, maybe I'm wrong about racism and white supremacy. Maybe it's deeper than I can see. Maybe I haven't put enough time into researching and looking at it. Maybe I've been so busy building a business and so caught up into economics and my own success that I haven't really paid attention to a lot of the systemic problems that average black people face on a daily basis. Maybe because I've lived in New York City for most of my life and I played basketball, I didn't really have a lot of interactions with racism and white supremacy, so I can't really see it. But I'm open to exploring and looking at it. And one thing about me, I constantly tell you guys this time and time again, I'm not a know-it-all. I constantly sit with my ideas, my thoughts, my ideals, my values, my morals on a daily basis. And as the facts change, my opinion will change. You know, part of being a good investor and a trader is not being married to any one way of thinking or any one investment. And I pride myself in that. And that's why I was able to make a lot of money throughout my time. And I'm realizing more and more that we are truly all we have. And in most cases, we can't even trust some of the black people that look like us. We can't trust skin folk. We can't trust a lot of white folks. The Democrats are corrupt. The Republicans are corrupt, which leads you back to the point of maybe you just have to build your own. And this where, you know, I get back to the whole bootstrapper thing. Like maybe bootstrapping is just the only way. I sit here sometimes and I say to myself, I don't really know. I don't believe that there's a political solution to this. I believe that the only way that this is going to be solved is with a revolution. And, you know, I'm glad and I'm happy that I see a lot of white people getting on board. And I don't care about the whole George Soros angle. I just care more about people expressing themselves and their frustration. And I support that. I support that wholeheartedly. I just saw another donation come in. Nelson Seals, thank you. I appreciate it. He stated, if we black people stay on code, we can accomplish so much. Just look at what the Haitians did in 1804. We must turn our backs on haters. And I'm leaning that way more and more every day, Nelson Seals. But I see people like Andreas, you know, who I've learned so much from when it comes to crypto and cryptography and just, blockchain technology. And I'm happy to see that. I appreciate that. That's a good thing, so, I'm not a racist person. I would never sit up here and say I hate white people and all that, because I know that everyone doesn't think like Peter. It surprised me that to witness libertarians, people who are supposed to be flag waving, patriots, don't tread on me, all about the Constitution, to constantly see them go out of their way to basically blame black people for why they're in the conditions that they're in and not look at the problems. So it's just good to see. But with that being said, guys, I'm going to end the stream here. Please hit that like button. It helps the content get out. Please share this. Please subscribe, hit the notification bell. Please join my mailing list. This way you'll always be notified via email when I go live. Please follow me on Instagram. As I said before, if you're interested in crypto and blockchain technology, I just recently launched my Tech Academy. We have a free 7-day trial in the Academy. The first course we're starting with is Bitcoin. Then we will be moving on to Ethereum, Monero, and some other privacy coins. We have a coding bootcamp that's going to start on July 12th. And we're going to first start with JavaScript. Then we're going to work on Solidity. The reason being is that you need to know Java in order to be able to work with Solidity, focusing on deploying and building smart contracts and dApps on top of the Ethereum blockchain with the whole DeFi space. And we have a whole lifetime membership, which is going to be $1,000. Again, all of that stuff is covered inside of the course. So just go look at it. And with that being said, guys, thank you to everyone who donated, and I will see you guys tomorrow. We'll get back to the economy and what's happening in the world. Have a blessed and beautiful night.